Good afternoon. This is a hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held July 12th, 2023, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. My name is Janet Williams, and as of today, I serve as the chair. Today's hearing is being broadcast live on Channel 18 and is being recorded for the on-demand archives available on the town's website. It's being conducted in person, by phone, and by video conference. The agenda, instructions on how to attend, and copies of documents for review are posted on the town's website. So, to all participants, whether you're attending by phone or online, please remain muted unless you've been recognized by the chair. And when you've been recognized, please identify yourself for the record. If you're attending by phone, you can mute and unmute by hitting *6. If you're online and you're not a commissioner, please keep your camera turned off until you have been recognized. Indicate that you wish to speak by using the raise hand feature. So that we have a record of a quorum attending today, I'll now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Karen Latin.
Present.
Bob Rawls.
Present.
Bob Delvecchio is not here today. Mary Sullivan.
Present.
Elise Gordon.
Present.
Cheryl Mazurzi is also not here today. I am here, so we have established that we have a quorum. Now, before we turn to today's agenda, I'd just like to take a few minutes to express and acknowledge the appreciation that all of us as members of this commission have had for the 2 years of effective and thoughtful leadership of Bob Rawls as chair and Bob Delvecchio as vice chair, who will have to watch this recording to hear the nice things I'm saying about him. Your leadership has been unflappable and an example of steadily guiding this body through some very lengthy hearings and twisted proceedings, but always to a satisfactory conclusion that serves the aims of the Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. I know and I'm sure the rest of us have learned a great deal from both of you, and we're grateful that you will continue to serve as members and continue to keep us informed about native vegetation and on our toes throughout. So thank you so much. Karen and I certainly have our work cut out for us in following your footsteps. We'll give it our best try. So, before we begin the agenda, are there any announcements about any continuances for today?
The only continuance that I have noted is 89 Taylor's Pond to July 26th.
Okie dokie. All right, then, at this point, Nikki Smith, Chatham's conservation agent, will now lead us through the agenda.
The first item up is a request for an order of conditions, 19 Pepper Lane, Abraham and Suzanne Batika, map 15E, parcel D5A, SE 103635, proposed garage addition.
Is anybody here for 19 Pepper Lane?
Should be David Clark.
I don't see him.
I don't either.
Okay, well, always hard to interpret silence, but I'm going to interpret it at the moment as being he has no objections, and we'll start just going through it briefly. It has been posted in the Dropbox. I did, in fact, since I was not here at this particular hearing, I did go and watch the tape so that I'd be able to review the order and vote on it in an excess of caution, make sure we had a quorum. I put in just a few minor changes. It has been posted online, so I assume if anybody is here who has any questions or comments to make about this order, please use the raise hand feature. I had very few and generally just formatting changes. And Bob, you had something.
Just native plants subject to approval for one thing, the last special condition.
Right, so this is not, there's no mitigation in this, so this is aimed at any vegetation that's removed during the course of construction would be replaced by natives, right? Okay.
Just a quick question. There's a PDF and a Word with different dates, so I'm guessing I go off the Word document.
Yeah, I track changes on the Word document, so I'm saving that.
Yeah, there's both, so
Okay.
just want to make sure.
Yeah, I saw the thing, but we can't mark it up and
Right.
track changes, so. But that's good for posting, because I don't think we want to post Word documents on the
Right.
town website.
I also thought we ought to add that part about the plantings being removed or disturbed, if they are, that they'll, into the findings, that they'll be planted with straight natives, just to make sure that it doesn't get lost.
Okay. Okay. Anything else, Karen?
Nope.
Elise, anything?
Nope, looks good.
All right, I think we are ready then for a motion to close the hearing and move on with this.
I move that we close the hearing and approve the order of conditions for 19 Pepper Lane.
Gordon, second.
All right, roll call vote. Karen?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I vote aye, that's unanimous, it's been approved. Okay, moving on.
The next item is a notice of intent for 93 Scattery Road, Scott Ward and Ingrid Goldman, map 16J, parcel 20A-9, SE 103639, replacement of some of the foundation under the south wing, the replacement of portion of a deck adjacent to the cottage with a patio, minor grading, and site restoration.
Good afternoon, David Little, here on behalf of the applicants. Teresa Sprague's has provided you with a new planting plan, which now includes 3 trees, 1 eastern red bud and 2 swamp white oak trees, which I believe satisfies the one of the issues of the last hearing. Thank you.
Yes, and so I just would note that, being a huge fan of eastern redbud, I did check it out, and it's native to southeast United States, not necessarily this part, which is fine. It's in the outer aura, so you just need to be aware that it doesn't count toward the 75% that Teresa has on her plan. I'm sure somebody will do the math and make sure that the vegetation in the outer aura is 75% native. I like them. I didn't realize that. I was like, that's too bad. Which is why you see them so often in Virginia and North Carolina. Yeah. Okay. Other questions or points, Karen?
Teresa has her hand raised, just so you know.
Teresa, are you going to correct me, maybe?
No, I'm not going to correct you. They
Oh,
are definitely native to the southeastern part of the country, but again, with sort of the migration of vegetation that is marching northward in the eastern seaboard, we're finding redbud starting to occur more naturally here. So we felt that, especially in its location, it has some ornamental value that the property owners would value. So that's why we chose that particular tree.
I appreciate that right off the porch where they would be able to sit and enjoy it. And I do take your point. I have noticed more and more of them, and I guess they are moving into the area under our conditions. Okay, so do you have?
The only thing I have is, we've talked previously about the tennis court and the pool and whether they ever came through conservation and all of that. I don't think we've been able to find any evidence of that. I'm a little uncomfortable having them on an approved plan, and they have to be there, obviously. So I was wondering, can you put something maybe in bold over the tennis court and the pool saying that there is no evidence that previously been approved, so that if somebody else is looking a few years down, they're not thinking these were always approved, because we're approving a plan.
I understand. I consulted with an attorney about that this morning, and I believe this is an internal issue for you and the group upstairs, not for my client. This was a prior owner.
Yep.
Right.
Permits were issued. He bought the property. Their attorneys did title searches to make sure everything was in order. So I'm not comfortable putting a note like that on my plan. What the attorney did say was that perhaps there should be an internal meeting, which we would attend with the town to figure out how to address this, but this has no bearing on my client. There are permits that were issued for it in 1986. We did not have a community development program that oversaw everything that went on, and we believe this was done with the proper permitting at the time, and that's pretty much where, I'm not comfortable putting
Right.
any notes on the plan to that effect for my client.
But
I
we're not,
appreciate your client is a recent owner, but you're using the permit in the plural. So besides the building permit, are you aware of what other permits may have been issued for
I
this?
think both Nikki and I have researched this.
Yeah.
Permits were issued by the town in 1986, whether
Is
they
there-
So
overlooked
it's,
besides
it's
a-
on every health and building permit that we can find, the tennis court and the pool.
So it's on the building permit, it's on the health. When was that, for this, the health issued a septic? Was there a
Yes,
septic
that was
system?
late, I think that was in the 90s. The building was 86. I think the health was a septic upgrade or something in the 90s that showed it as well.
I totally acknowledge that back in the 80s, there wasn't any central permitting as we have now. And it's not for us to second guess a previous owner and what they may or may not have done in conducting their due diligence to figure out whether they needed conservation. So I'm sympathetic to your client's position. At the same time, we can't approve a plan that blesses everything that's on it.
Well,
So
I think then there should be an internal discussion upstairs among the town people that make these decisions on how to move forward, because I don't think the onus is on my client to make this good. My client very
Right.
recently purchased this property, and the research in town hall indicated any permit that was necessary for what's on the ground was issued. I'm happy to take this to the next step with you, but I'm not interested in putting a note on my plan.
Okay, if that's the case, we need to have it, we can't approve the plan as it currently
I
is. So
was
we're at this
told by
impasse.
council that the town should have an internal discussion on how to handle this, and it's your responsibility, because the permits were issued by the town.
Well, a
In
septic,
in
a Board of Health and a building permit, but not a
There's no one
conservation.
here, the town was very small in 1986. The Conservation Commission was very small in 86. We had a 25-foot buffer then.
Yep.
Who knows how this was addressed back in those days?
right.
Right,
I just don't, we're not proposing anything to do with the tennis court or the swimming pool on
right.
this plan.
And I know that you're coming back, as you said, with a more
yes, but I also know that-
comprehensive plan later.
I also know the applicants really like the tennis court. It's one of the reasons they bought the property.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Well, not
I mean,
necessarily. It's not unfortunate.
Well, it's unfortunate in terms of its location, of where it's located, in a,
And I would
two-thirds
suggest
of it is
there's
in a
no other.
no disturb zone.
So we're going to be starting the foundation work in September. So provided that we can reach a discussion internally with the town on how to proceed with this matter, I'm comfortable postponing it, but we would like to have this resolved prior to Labor Day.
Okay, it's been 2 weeks since we last talked about it. In that period, it hasn't been possible for us to consult with town council and get his view, which is something we will have to do. He'll be part of that conversation, because it is largely a legal question in terms of what was
And I think
required,
it would be
what presumptions is one entitled to make, and what presumptions are we required to make, and those things I just
And I
don't.
think that might help you in the future for future filings.
This is not the first time where we've found
You're correct.
structures in conservation land that couldn't find any evidence. They were not as significant as this, so this is the first time, at least in my experience in 5 years, that we've been faced with this.
So what do I need to do to see this move forward in a timely manner?
Let me ask you what your objection is to putting a notation on the plan that simply indicates that approval of this plan does not constitute approval of the pre-existing tennis court and pool.
I'm not comfortable
By the
saying.
Conservation
I'm not
Commission.
comfortable with that at all. There was a pre-existing approval.
But not of the
From
Conservation
conservation?
Commission.
We don't know what occurred back in 1986, and I'm not going to say that because I don't know what occurred. They could have looked across one desk from one to another, and nodded their head.
Well,
for all-
even in 1986, to be fair, the Wetlands Protection Act and regulations were in force that prescribed the process and the procedures for approving
I-
structures. So
No,
if
I am
somebody
not
had
comfort-
approved it, there would necessarily be a written document of some kind of evidence of the approval.
I am comfortable addressing this with staff and town council to move forward. I'm not comfortable putting a note on a plan before we've even done that.
So I think the best way to move forward is for me to request a Freedom of Information Act request, or whatever it's called, from the town clerk for minutes from any possible meetings, and then see if conservation is.
I thought we already did that at the last hearing, requested that we research that.
We looked internally, right?
We looked in all the files, but we
Right.
didn't request the minutes yet, and I'm looking online, and I don't think they go back that far.
But that being said, if you can't find them, is there a timely manner in which we could have a staff meeting to address this with town council?
Yes, I think,
Yes.
well, not necessarily with town council, I don't know their
He wouldn't-
schedule, of course,
I'm not
but,
sure that, yeah, he would provide some, we would ask him for his written guidance. He doesn't normally appear. But looking at the schedule, we could continue to early August,
That's what I was thinking,
give us 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks to,
maybe August 9th. That would give us a little
Yeah.
bit, almost a month.
August 9th will be us 4 weeks from today.
Okay.
so you're
All right.
thinking,
We'll try to aim for the meeting, if we need one, and if we're unable to figure this out on our own, to meet the week before that sometime, to talk
So-
about what the options are and what we can agree on.
Can you keep me advised of any meetings that might be occurring that I could attend?
yes, so that's what I was just about to ask. So Jay, I already talked to Jay Briggs, the building commissioner, and he said it's past its due for building to do anything, so it's,
Oh, I know, the statute of limitations is
yeah,
long-
the statute
long
of
gone.
limitations for building is gone, so I don't know if you want him there or care.
I would just like to get it addressed.
All right, so I'll ask Jay, I don't think it has any health issues, but I'll ask Judy as well. Bob is back next week. Hopefully, I don't know, he's probably slammed, trying to wrap up everything. Jay, Bob, Judy, me.
Is there, this road is the location is a little odd because it's really on Kochpennacott Road. Is there any chance that the address may have been changed at some point?
No, they actually own land that goes down and fronts on Scattery there's a conservation restriction over.
Right?
So the address has always been 93
It's always been,
Scattery.
okay, never mind, I was just,
I think Crystal actually even looked for the zeros.
Yeah.
Just because a lot of things are filed under 0 before they're built, and I believe Crystal looked under that and didn't find anything either.
The dwelling,
when was that built?
it's a couple of hundred years old.
Okay, so, okay. All right, 1986. All right, let's continue to August the 9th, and we will do some further digging.
Great.
We will keep you in the loop.
Okay.
We will likely try to reach out to you and have a meeting to see what we've come up with and whether we can all agree to something to resolve this.
Thank you.
Okay? All right. Motion.
I move that we continue 93 Scattery Road to the meeting on August 9th, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote. Karen?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that's unanimous. August the 9th. Okay, next one.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is 90 Squanto Drive, Scott Crawford, 90 Squanto Drive LLC, map 10C, parcel 21E4, SE 103633, septic upgrade.
Hello, this is Scott Crawford. I'm hoping we have Phil Cheney present as well, who's done our landscape design for us.
He is
Yes.
indeed here, yep.
Yes, I am Phil Cheney, landscape designer that prepared the plan that you've received. And I'm prepared to walk you through my observations and recommendations on this challenging site.
Please do.
I've marked up the plan and tried to make it a little bit clearer to see as far as from the tree standpoint. And I've got some notes on the plan which kind of help to sort out what's there. First of all, overall, the existing trees are generally in poor condition, so just keep that in mind as we're discussing these. One of them is a large pitch pine, which is badly infested with borers already, and would probably be slated for removal pretty soon anyways. One of the plants marked on the plan, right where the leach field is actually a large autumn olive, which is an invasive species. Several of the trees that were marked on the septic plan are actually older stumps. One is an oak stump that is resprouting heavily, and it's perched really on the top of the bank, very close to the house. I'm kind of guessing that the oak may have been removed for that reason, because it's in kind of a dangerous position. And these stump is resprouting, which could be left, but I'm recommending removing that just because a large tree in that spot is going to be difficult to maintain. There are 3 older pitch pine stumps as well. I'm assuming those were removed for borer reasons because most of the area are afflicted by the turpentine beetles at this point. There are 2 very small, about the 4-inch black cherries that are in the way of the line. And then the remaining trees, I've got 9 black oaks varying from 9 up to some 6 up to 19-inch caliber. And only 3 of those oaks are really in healthy, stable condition. A lot of them are showing a lot of wasp damage from recent years and even perhaps currently. Nonetheless, I feel like we've got room to replace 2 of the oaks out in the front yard without compromising things like the overhead wire and the new septic system, leach field, and lines themselves. So I'm showing 2 white oaks going in the area up by the street. In addition, on the west side, we've got room. There are some open patches in the canopy layer in there where I believe we can fit in another white oak, as well as a couple of eastern dogwoods because of the canopy level layer in there. So that gives us a total of being able to replace 5 trees in there, where really only about maybe 5 of the trees are really valuable in the first place. Additionally, for the sake of revegetation and for erosion control, I'm recommending planting 9 bayberry in the area of the leach field on top of the existing retaining wall. So I think this is, given the challenging nature of the site, the need to fit a leach field, septic tank, and the excavation that goes along with it on some very challenging grades up in the front there, that this is a good solution to try to bring back some of the trees that were being removed.
All right, thank you for that. Let me open it up, the points on the trees. I have to look at my notes to see what else, if anything, I'm not sure we had asked about, but Bob, Elise, questions on what Phil is explaining about the tree?
Yeah, well, just questions in general. I appreciate, Phil, that it is a challenging site. Trees are big, crowded together. I have no, take your word for which ones were unhealthy. I didn't go to the backyard when I did my site visit, and can you describe what it's like back there?
There's a rail fence along what's probably close to the top of the coastal bank. There's a small amount of lawn between that and the house. And then there's some, especially on the western side, some fairly mature trees overshading the house and that area.
Okay, so there's probably a lot of invasives in the back.
I didn't go down in there, but I assume in that area
Yeah,
that there's
I
a
don't
whole
know
mix.
exactly how far down it goes. So a fundamental question is, what is the nature of the lawn front and back?
The nature of the lawn, it's pretty rough Cape Cod lawn. in
Cape
my
Cod
memory
lawn?
there,
Okay,
yeah.
so
In the
there's-
front especially, it's very thin. I don't think it's anything special in the back.
Okay, so I was just looking for a gain, if we could somehow swap out non-native lawn. for native lawn, that might help
Yeah.
us.
It's not a very, it's not a very big space in back even.
Okay.
I don't show that on my plan. I wasn't really, targeting that area because there's really not much space there.
Right, okay. Well, anyway, I think you did a reasonable effort to try to mitigate the situation here. You're limited in space. I could make the case you might be able to sprinkle in a couple more mid-story trees, but I'll leave that up to you, your professional judgment. But that's the only thing I was asking about was the lawn.
I had a question on whether would it be possible to leave any snags when you're taking the trees down, if the tree itself is healthy and not filled with?
Yeah, no,
with
most of the
borers?
trees that need to be removed is just because of the excavation. Okay, we got the trench for the line, they get the leach field, the grade is pretty uneven, so there's a lot going on there. There's a couple trees that you might be able to sort of leave intact, but since the trenching and the grading is going to remove, in many cases, like say half of the root system,
Yeah.
you're making it very unstable, a situation like that. And so it would be a dangerous situation for the house as well as for this tree. So I kind of looked at that as like, yeah, is there any of these that could survive? But the very nature of that trenching is there's not going to be, they're going to be all unbalanced.
Yeah, it's a lot of habitat to go, that's all I was thinking. So
Understood, yeah.
I bow to your judgment.
Is that it? Thank you. Karen?
So the reason so many trees that aren't near the septic or the leach field are being taken out is because of the trenching?
Yes, yeah, the new
Okay.
tanks and pump chamber going down in the driveway
Right.
area, that takes those, and then the line goes up
Right.
through, and you can kind of see that, the dashed line that goes up to the leach
Okay.
field.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's splitting right down the middle of most of them, and,
So then the 4-inch cherries. Any chance they can be transplanted somewhere so we're not losing those? I mean, I'm just trying to find ways to make our tree count considerably less because you're not getting the, one-to-one.
yeah, and again, as I pointed out, the one-to-one is, to me, is kind of irrelevant because of the health of the trees. Many of those will be
understand.
leaving. The 4-inch cherries, I mean, you could try to move those with a backhoe. I don't have any experience trying to save cherries like that in that size, whether or not they're going to take successfully or not. And I'm not sure where on the site I would put them. If there was a place to put them, I would have planted something else,
Okay.
so.
Also, I think you have an error on your plan because you have 200-foot from coastal bank lines. If you
My
look at the
apol-
one that's
my
going through the
apologies.
existing house, it says 100 feet,
Yeah,
and
my
so does
apologies,
the
yes,
other
that
one.
should say
So
50
that
though,
does need
right.
to be corrected,
Sure.
just as an aside. I don't know, I guess, I mean, there's no way to put some more shrubs or something, as Bob said, it's a lot of trees, and I understand they're not healthy, but they do provide something to the environment, and it would be nice to see, it's hard seeing 5 trees and then the 9 shrubs, and that doesn't even meet what you're taking out. Is there any way?
I mean, you could probably always plant more shrubs. I'm not sure that's really, making sense there. I think this is a very reasonable attempt to try to restitute something that's being done for the sake of the septic system that is going to be an improvement for the property. I mean,
Right.
from a conservation
No,
standpoint.
I'm just trying,
I understand, yeah,
I'm trying
and-
to see what we can
Yeah,
get.
I understand. I've been out there and I feel like I've, come up with something that's going to be good and practical. I mean,
No, I know it's a
yeah.
tough property. I mean,
Sure.
going out there, you
Yeah.
see, I mean, it's just the whole front. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah,
if we could somehow get something,
I'm having a hard time seeing this.
what,
Because on mine, I'm just asking to see the paper, because on mine, it's hard to distinguish between the white oaks which I presume they're on the list to be installed, as well as oaks to be removed. The two large oak icons on the street,
Yeah.
are those coming or going?
Those are the new trees, yes.
Those are
All,
the
I mean,
new
all the
trees.
trees that are removed are just a small circle with
The
an
small
X
circles with
through
the
it.
X, okay.
And, yep, and it should be a red X, so I mean, it's, yeah,
I
so,
can see, it shows up better in paper.
Sure.
It's
in
not
here.
red on the paper. I can
There
tell
are,
you that.
oh, you went over them with orange?
I
you
went over
did
them
that,
with my
okay.
orange marker.
So how large is, when you say it's 10 gallon, what is
a
the,
10-gallon tree is generally gonna be, say, in about the 8 to 10-foot range. It's a good start.
okay, and what would be it's about 2 inch or so?
Now, it wouldn't be, it would probably be closer to an inch in caliper.
Okay.
Yep.
So they're little guys going in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, for the benefit of the septic system.
I know. All right,
Anybody have any other questions or comments?
no.
Does anybody have, this is going to be going then to, for an order of conditions. Is there anything that anybody would like to suggest be included as findings or special conditions on this?
I think we need to make sure in the findings that we very much detail why so many trees are coming out and so few are going in. I mean, that's the one.
Yep, I think that's good. I made notes here about the challenges of the site. Make a note about the general health of the trees. I don't have any specifics on that, but I think something to the effect that at least some show signs of infestation. Anything else?
I think just that the health of, this is absolutely necessary because of the septic, and
Yeah.
so there's no way to save any of those trees.
All reasonable efforts have been undertaken to do. All right, so I guess that we will take this then to the 26th of July for an order of conditions.
Yep.
All right,
I move that we continue 90 Squanto Drive to July 26, 2023 for an order of conditions.
Gordon, second.
roll call vote. Karen?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that's unanimous. We'll see you on the 26th of July.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I just understand what that means in practice?
Oh, sure, Mr. Cobb. So we have to write an order, which is a permit, to allow this project to move forward, in that we put any kinds of special conditions. At the moment, none are occurring to anybody, so pretty simple, straightforward order. The next time we meet is July the 26th, and at that hearing, we will vote on and approve that order. That's
Okay.
the next step.
That's just formal to have the extra meeting. Okay.
Yep, yep.
And
Thank you.
then, sorry, wrong microphone. Just so you know, usually about within 3 to 5 days, the order is sent out to, I think in this case, Phil. Or do you want it to be, who wants the original? To record.
Send the original to Mr. Crawford.
Okay.
I'll look at the draft, certainly.
All right, so the original will go to you, then you have to go to the Barnstable Registry of Deeds, or you can do it online as well, to have it recorded on your deed. But we will send you the original in approximately 5 days from the second meeting.
Maybe scan it or something, huh? Didn't know. Another COVID improvement. All right,
All right, next one.
thank you, thank you. All right, next.
The next item up is the notice of intent for 89 Taylor's Pond Road, William T. and Karen L. Kaskoris. Trustees, 89 Taylor's Pond Road Realty Trust, map 5C, parcel 29B, PT 19, SE 103636, proposed deck expansions and hardscaping, removal of invasive vegetation, and restoration with native species. The applicant has requested to continue to July 26, 2023.
All right. I move that we continue 89 Taylor's Pond Road to July 26th, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote, Karen?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
The next notice of intent is 68 Judges Way, Caroline Beaumont, map 11B, parcel 1A, R5, proposed swimming pool.
All right, before the presentation begins, I'll just note for the record that I will not be participating in this matter as I am in a butter. I will just let people ask questions, and I will have nothing of substance to say, and I will not vote.
May I hand in the green cards?
What? Oh.
You can just bring it up to me. Yeah, that's fine.
Microphone's all set, yeah?
Yep,
Okay,
you're
there we go.
you're good to go.
Testing. Donald Chapman from Strong Tree Engineering, and Caroline Beaumont, our applicant, is here as well. So 68 Judges Way in Chatham, we're talking about a pool installation. It's a single-family residence on a 1-acre lot. The BVW is identified to the northeast in a section of riverbank, 100 feet plus or minus, that connects the BVW to the east, and a pipe to the west that discharges to Oyster Pond. So took the existing conditions here and it identified the 50-foot wetland buffer here in orange, the 100-foot riverfront here in yellow, the parcel here, and identified the existing property. So this is the existing conditions that you should have some documentation around. The proposed project is for the 18 by 36-foot in-ground gunite pool with an auto cover and granite Chatham blue paver deck. We have retaining walls on the upper and lower walls to limit any disturbance. I'm just going to shift to the projected plan here. A little bit more zoomed in, and you'll see the retaining walls here, and then by the house as well. So to limit disturbance there, we'll do a silt sock on the down gradient on the limit of work. The limit of work line you'll see is a little bit darker, drawn around project area. The limit of work is outside the 50-foot BVW buffer and the 100-foot riverfront. So obviously this intersection line here and everything south. Dewatering is not anticipated, but provisions have been included if necessary. The pool is about 5 feet deep, so excavation's looking about 6.5 feet plus or minus, which gets us to elevation of 19 feet, but groundwater elevation is 15 to 16, so we have sufficient room there. With respect to tree removal, we've marked 3 8 to 12 inch diameters. I believe they're cedar oak and black cherry. And then there's 2 to 3 trees near the pool, but that are outside of the limiting areas that I just identified. We'd use a small to mid-size excavator with temp access to the north of the house here, which we've identified within that area of work. That'll allow access from the driveway in the front of the house. With respect to mitigation and landscaping, we're doing one-to-one mitigation plantings for alterations to the 100 to 200-foot riverfront, the Aura Zone, and it's north of the proposed pool within the riverfront. So there were 3 trees, 2.5 to 3 inch, red maple and swamp white oak. Shrubs, we had 8 of them, 3 to 4 feet in height, serviceberry, inkberry, highbushberry, but open to other recommendations or requirements you have, obviously. And the ground cover grass, we have New England restoration mix for moist sites, and the turf would be a harmony mix. Also, just noting outside the flood zone, outside natural heritage, so rare wildlife species and vernal pools and soils, and that it's, the testing shows it's a Carver coarse sand. I'm also joined, I forgot to reference, my colleague, Justin Lamoureux, is on the line with us today as well.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Who would like to start with any questions? Okay, go for it.
Hi, just a little more clarity on the trees being removed. You said 5 to 6?
So we have 3 that have been marked, and then there are a couple that are here outside of the pool and deck area that are nearby, between the 6 and 12-inch diameters as well.
All of those are in the resource area, though?
Those are outside of the 100-foot riverfront, and they are also outside of the 50-foot wetland buffer.
Well, it's actually a 100-foot buffer.
The 100-foot riverfront?
No, there's a 100-foot buffer to the wetlands.
Yes.
So anything within that is within our jurisdiction.
So the 3 that were marked were to be removed. The other 2, because they weren't in the direct construction area, were not identified, but
Those
we
should
could
be part in discussion here because
Yes.
they're within our resource area. So we're talking 5 or 6 trees in a resource area.
Yes, so those 2 additional ones by the pool,
So we're talking 5 trees?
that would make the 5 in total if we were to add those 2.
Yeah, we need to add those 2 because
Okay.
they are protected. It's
Okay.
not just the riverfront we're concerned about. There's a 100-foot buffer from the wetland.
Yes.
That is within our resource, within our purview. So those trees, those other 2 trees need to be included. So I heard you say 5 to 6, but you're sticking with 5 at this point?
So so there's the 3 that we have marked. We can mark those other 2 for removal.
Not necessarily for removal, but I thought you were saying they needed to go.
No, just the 3 that we had marked were the ones to be removed, and then open to discussion as you like for the other trees,
Open to discussion.
or however you'd like to.
I don't know if that, would you like to remove them, or?
We didn't have plans to remove them, if you'd like them removed.
No,
if you're telling
don't want
us.
them removed.
Okay, no, that was not in the plan to remove them.
Because
Sorry for the
it
lack
looked
of
to me
clarity.
like they were pretty close to the proposed pool, and therefore it wouldn't surprise me if you wanted to remove them. So, but you're not planning or proposing to remove them, is what it sounds like.
In this plan, we had not proposed to remove them, correct?
Okay.
Do you? I mean, is there a desire to, is there a desire to remove them because they are very close to the pool? I actually asked about this as well and noticed on the plan, no trees are marked saying they're going to be removed on the plan. There's no anything that shows a tree is being removed or where it's located on the plan, on either plan. And I just double checked. They do need to show there so that if somebody's going out to check, they can see that there were 2 trees and where they were located. But I asked about the 2 additional trees because they are right, like where your pool and deck, they're almost right against them.
Yes, one of them's very close by and one's shortly,
Right.
in the nearby area. They were not
Right.
planned to be removed, but
Okay, then that's great.
current plan.
If they're not. They probably should be noted on the plan, though. Yeah, I mean, if trees exist, they should be showing that they exist and with a note, these are going out, these are remaining, so that when somebody goes to check, they can say, oh, okay, this is what I'm looking for.
Yes.
So we do need those. But I'll turn it back over, Bob.
Yeah, no, happy to
Sorry.
make any, notations as required.
The reason I brought it up, I'm not used to this. The reason I brought it up is that I actually had a conversation with the owner when I was there, and I think you were indicating to me that, yeah, those would probably have to go as well. So that's kind of why I
Yeah,
brought it up.
and with me as well.
Okay, so
So-
if we'd like, we can, we'll make notation to bring back to you for this.
And if they are being removed, you will need to put in
Specify which will
more
and which would not.
trees, though, to
Yep, to
replace
balance.
what you're removing.
Yeah, the one-to-one
But
mitigation.
Obviously, if you don't think you need to remove them,
We're happy.
don't remove them. We're not asking for, we'll never ask for a tree to be removed.
I think there might have been, some confusion about some of the conversations as to whether, those would need to be removed, but as of the
Do you
plan,
think they need to be removed for construction?
we felt that they'd be able to come up to that area and they should be okay.
Excellent.
That's how we planned it.
We're good. We're good.
I would suggest maybe marking the ones that definitely have to go for the project in one color, and then ones that maybe have to go, but we're gonna try as best we can to save in a different color.
I don't even want to open it up.
The next, or,
We heard 3 trees, only 3 trees, so that's what we got. Right?
That's the plan.
That's the plan. Okay, good. So that means that your trees you're putting in works out, because you have 3 actual trees and then 3 service berries, which I consider to be large shrubs, so that's good. So it works out. I don't have any other questions or concerns.
thank you. Elise, do you?
My only concern were the trees, so Bob covered that well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No, there seems to be, when you're talking about spacing and square feet that you're replacing for mitigation, it almost makes it, because you say there's 1375 of grass going in. A restoration mix for moist sites, which, I just was wondering if you really are thinking that's most of your mitigation.
So I'm going to call on Justin, who's the engineer who's been working on the project. Just to clarify the question, are you saying that the mitigation doesn't match what's being?
No, I'm saying, your numbers, because you say 1375, which, is what you're saying is the proposed mitigation. That makes it sound like the grass or the restoration mix is really what you're offering as mitigation. And I'm just asking if that was meant that way, or,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay.
Very
Just-
faint.
you need to,
Strong tree. How are you? Yeah, so the idea with the mitigation would be it's a combination of plants and the restoration mix, and to put the seeds down and let it naturalize would be the idea. Leave the leaf litter with the new plants it's actually a good spot for it because there's an opening in that area for it. So that would be the idea: is put the plants, put the seed, let it naturalize, let the leaf litter take over, and let it turn back to woods. On the trees, if we could just go back to that, I'm sorry. We are happy to mark those in the field and the 2 trees we're talking about are right to the northwest of the proposed pool. They're shown on the plan. And we are more than happy to review that again in the field and revise the plan if needed and add 2 additional trees to the landscape plan if those trees are determined that they need to be removed.
Can I respond to that?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, again, we don't want those trees removed.
Yeah.
We're not proposing that they be removed. We don't want them to be removed, so, and we've been told in this hearing that they don't need to be removed for the project.
Yep.
So as far as we're concerned, they are not going to be removed.
Yep, I understand. This came up, I think, yesterday or the day before, so we really didn't have time to address it before the hearing, but we
Okay,
can.
well, if you
Yep.
need to revise your proposal, that's a separate matter.
Yep, understand.
I'm sorry, I didn't see those 2 trees because they're very, very faint on the plan, but the trees that are on the other side that are marked for removal are not on the plan that I'm seeing, at least.
Yep, you are correct. So that's a tree line because there were so many trees. So we actually, we marked the actual proposed tree line and then flagged all the trees that were over, I think, 3 inches within that area. So you can see there's a hatched tree line along the limit of work.
Actually, you have a-
But in the field, they're marked with green flagging.
No, that, I did see them marked on, in the field.
Okay.
I just, it would be.
I'd like to follow up to
you.
your question, Karen. and
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I understand what you're saying, and I think it's a good point, and that is, the plan doesn't show at least in my eyes, the boundaries of the mitigation area. And so it does show the vegetation that's being planted, but it doesn't depict where the mix, whatever you call it, the moist environment. seed mix-
Restoration
yeah,
mix.
Restoration mix is going. And so the reason why, so it'd be useful to have the outline of the mitigation area shown so that we get a sense of how much of the mitigation consists of that seed mix versus the vegetation that you're planting. Because if you're just, let's say your 500 square feet of your mitigation is the seed mix, then that's a bit of a problem, you see. So that's why, I forgot that I had the same question when I was looking at this plan, is it doesn't show the mitigation area, the boundary of it.
So
Well, it does.
Sheets-
Does it?
It does, but it doesn't show
C3
what's
has
going
that
in there.
information.
Okay.
That's the,
So, I thought that was a tree line, but maybe that's the mitigation, okay. It isn't labeled as such, so, all right. I
This
can-
is,
Yeah, so the hatched area is
restoration
the,
and detail,
that would be the naturalized, where we would seed and let it naturalize.
right below it.
even C3. C3.
This is when I like having.
I see it now.
I can't,
So,
But it's hard to tell because you have these beautiful giant circles, which I think are the 3 trees, of course. And then you have medium, it makes it look, I think, to me, bigger than what really, how they're going to look when they're put in. And I'm wondering if there's more space than what it appears here, because it appears here like it's very dense with these 8, 9, 10, 11 plants and trees, shrubs and trees. And so that's why I was asking about the grass or the restoration mix, because I kind of felt like that was more of the mitigation than what's going in as far as shrubs and trees.
Understand. Yeah, that's a fair, these are full growth sizes and they obviously won't be that for 10 years or so. So we're happy to add some more plantings. It's not a problem.
I'd like to
Especially
see.
for, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
but to follow up with that, if you could give us an idea of how much of the mitigation consists solely of the seed mix. In other words, there's nothing else there except the seed mix in terms of square feet. And I think that's where we could run into an issue. We normally think of the seed mix not as mitigation, but maybe as a ground cover and a mitigation area. But not really counting towards the mitigation per se. It's really the woody vegetation that we think of as mitigation.
Okay. That's not a problem.
Do we need a mow strip?
Well, that raises also the tending question, do we need demarcation? Yeah, in a most,
Yeah.
yeah.
Usually around mitigation, we like something to protect the mitigation so that it doesn't get, ruined, for lack of a better word.
By adjacent invasives. And
Yeah.
so I don't know I have my own opinion about the invasive situation on the wetland side of the mitigation area. What do you think? What do you think the situation there is? In other words, how likely is it that those invasives, and I think there are some there, would overcome your mitigation?
I mean, definitely it's a concern. This is, there's woods to all sides of this area. It would be something, I think your commission requires a 2-year monitoring period, so
3.
3 years, actually.
3 years, okay. So that would be part of that effort.
But we think longer term. We would like to think longer term. And so in cases where there are invasives next to mitigation areas, which is increasingly the case, sometimes we have arrived at a solution where there's a mow strip 2 or 3 feet wide between the invasives and the mitigation, and the requirement and the order conditions would be that that gets regularly mowed in an attempt to keep the mitigation protected from the invasives. I wish we had a better solution than that, but that's the only one so far that we've really been able to come up with, other than putting mitigation where there are no adjacent invasives. But when we go look at sites 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the road, especially older projects, we find that the mitigation is, you can't even find it anymore because the invasives have consumed them. So it's kind of pointless, really, to plant mitigation where that's going to happen. Waste of money, waste of time. So anyway, do you have experience in protecting mitigation from invasives? We always love to hear about ideas.
If a mow strip would be sufficient for your purposes,
We don't know if it'd be sufficient. We hope it's sufficient, but
It's something we've come up with, right? I mean,
think it actually works, but
yeah.
it's all we come up with.
Well, we have perpetual monitoring.
We do have that. Yeah, that's true. In our order, yeah, that's true. In our standard language now for orders, this is something you should know, because I guess you guys are off Cape, is that right?
we have an office in Marston's Mills. So
Okay,
we're Cape Cod
so
based, yeah.
we, in our standard language, have a provision that even past the 3-year monitoring period, the mitigation areas be maintained. Because otherwise, they disappear.
So just to clarify that, so we have the growing season that they need to survive, the survivability period, which is 3 years. But then after the order is closed, an ongoing condition will say that these native plants need to be kept free from invasives. So that's going to be, the responsibility of the current homeowner and any future homeowners. So that's going to stay on the deed. So if, say in 10 years, someone new applies and I go out there and see that it's all the mitigation is just overgrown mess, whoever is owner of the property will be responsible for making sure that the mitigation area that was approved today remains in perpetuity.
Understood. Makes sense.
Any other questions?
No.
Comments, concerns?
So we have to continue.
Okay, yeah, we do have to continue. I have in my notes here that you'll come back and revise the plan to show the trees being removed, and perhaps distinguishing between trees that are certainly going to be, that absolutely will be removed, and some that may or may not be, depending on how the construction goes, in which case I think you'd have to go for, you'd have to request approval of the agent before you could take those out, but we can work on that. But the trees need to be on the plan, is what I have here, and add more detail and perhaps more plans to the mitigation area so that it's clear the percentage of trees, shrubs, and seed mix. So some plan revisions. I also note that you're scheduled for ZBA on the 27th of this month. So
Should we continue to August 2nd?
probably be
Is
Is
prudent.
it,
ZBA?
would it be possible to make the few adjustments you talked about and submit you plans in the coming days in advance of
We
that?
have a hearing on the 26th. We could continue it till then. That's before zoning, so that's, the problem is that if we approve everything at that point and get ready to issue an order, if you run into any unforeseen problems at zoning, that would, it pulls the rug out from under what we're doing. So we always look for some certainty before we get to that point.
So I'm gathering that it's mostly just planting issues that we're having.
Sounds that way.
So we don't really have issues with any of the zoning type stuff.
Pool.
Well, no.
Nice if they weren't there at all.
Or smaller, but it is what it is.
So I can always, submit my letter that
Yep.
says we still have some work to do as far as the conservation's concerned regarding plantings, et cetera, but, as far as what they are proposing structurally, the commission is not looking for any revisions.
All right, then the 26th.
Or do you want to do August 2nd, because then, well, no, I guess 26th, if it's
The day
just planting.
before, would we have to push it to August 2nd in any case to issue an order?
Well, I'm thinking maybe just August, because
Why would we?
then we'll have the clarification of zoning
Yeah.
in case
Yeah,
anything changes.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and then, like I said, I can just tell them that we are most likely approving the permit with
approvable
some
with
revisions,
conditions.
approvable with revisions,
Yep.
and they'll look at it, and then in case you have to modify anything with them, the zoning secretary will tell me, and then that way we could get the revised plans before we issue ours. It's complicated.
I think I tracked.
The timing is
Chicken and
always,
egg.
there is, right, there's always that chicken and egg problem with various boards. So August 2nd?
It sounds like that
That
is what
work-
you're
that would-
recommending.
That would, we would have,
I think
we would
that
have
makes sense.
finality from zoning, and we'd be able to move forward at that point. Yeah.
All right, I move that 68 Judges Way be continued to August 2nd, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Okay, roll call vote. Karen?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I abstain, so that's 4 in favor. See you on August 2nd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is 23 Wilkie Way, notice of intent, William Riley, map 17D, parcel 9, F10, removal of invasive plants, new planting, new gravel infiltration strips at residence and garage, new bark mulch path, expanded crushed shell driveway, new walkway and steps, and new fencing.
Hi there.
Hello.
My name's Christopher Patsky with Zen Associates. And to put this simply, the owner is looking for ways to improve pedestrian and vehicular access and safety throughout the site. So in order to achieve that, they're looking to get a more level entry to the main house, walkway to the main house by adding some steps, expanding the shell paving. The driveway comes in at a particular angle, which makes it difficult to come in and out of that property and properly see people coming down the road. We would like to expand the crushed shell driveway, modify some existing landscape steps that are at the end of a retaining wall, install new access path with steps, install some new steps in a lawn area, adding some permeable paving around the house for a drip strip. Additionally, they're looking for some fencing, and they were looking for some additional privacy as well. So the addition of trees helps them with privacy and a little bit of mitigation. So that's in a nutshell.
All right, thank you. Let me ask a couple questions about, I know we have concerns and questions about what's proposed as mitigation, but in terms of the project itself, it's a sloped lot, right? So there are some existing stairs in there. So when you talk about, when you refer to leveling walkways, are you doing any regrading of this lot?
Just where, so we have some existing steps, and there's some, we're just reconfiguring the existing steps and widening them a bit. The front walkway is a sloped walk, and the clients this is their forever home, so they're looking ahead towards, having elderly relatives come and that sort of thing. So adding steps and adjusting the grades around the steps to accommodate the walk is the intention. we've worked as much as possible with the existing grades to meet existing grades as it slopes towards the driveway.
So when you say you're working with the existing grades as much as possible, does that mean that you're not regrading? That you'll put the
Well-
steps into the existing grade, and how do you then deal with a sloped walkway?
Well, on the plan, we have located where we envision the steps being. There's 2 steps at the driveway, and then a little bit of a level walkway, 3 steps. And we intend to blend the grade into the steps and concentrating on the walkway itself, not regrading the entire lawn area. That's not the intent there.
Okay. Okay. You have a lot of, I will congratulate you on the amount of detail that you've put on this plan, but it does make it sort of challenging to separate out some of the particular elements. But I'm getting there with it. I'd like to ask you to describe in more detail what you're proposing for fencing. Where and why is fencing proposed? I could not figure that out very clearly.
Is it possible for me to share my screen?
Absolutely.
Would that be easier?
And then you can control and,
All right, let's see how wish me luck.
oh, it's easy.
Oh, there we go.
There you
Okay.
go.
So there is some existing fencing on the site, and then we have a fence here. Do you see my cursor?
Yep. So there's a split rail fence that runs, it looks like roughly along the property line with the adjacent
Yes, ma'am.
property. Okay.
Yep. And then we have fencing here to the garage, and then some fencing here to the residence. And again, one of the intentions that the client had asked for was to give them a little bit of more privacy. This is their sort of a more social area for them, and they feel exposed. So that was the intention with the fencing itself. To go back to the step question, we have some steps. The grading in this area is pretty much as it is, and we're just modifying the steps there. Here, we're adding a couple steps.
I'm sorry, are you moving the, I'm not following.
He's on these steps here right now. Yeah, he is moving, but it's these he's talking about.
I'm on the wrong plan or something.
That's,
Oh, yeah.
This is the site, not the planting plan.
Okay. All right, go ahead. I was just struggling to
I know.
keep up with you.
I'm sorry about that. So yeah, we're going to blend, the intention is to blend grades in from the existing contours. This is the 16 contour here, for instance, which continues through here. And that is, we're meeting that grade there. So there might be a little bit of grade that's really in the immediacy of the walkway. And then stepping, the walkway isn't going to be completely level. There'll be some sloping sections that come from the top of the step to the next portion, but we're trying to alleviate the steepness as much as possible. And that's just for this walkway area here. And then there are a couple, it's really just to help somebody navigate the landscape better by giving them some steps instead of a steeper slope to be in. In this area, for instance, we will probably, tuck some grading up into the steps to make that a little bit less of a sloped walkway. Here's the 17 contour, which will be, we'll tie into that. So there'll be a little bit of modification there.
It's hard to
And a little bit of modification there.
Okay, I can, yeah, I'm seeing the 17 contour on my, so what are you proposing in terms of material for the fence? What kind
The
of
fence is, we've talked about, we haven't finalized the design for the fence, but we've talked about a board fence, again, to add privacy.
And a board fence, you mean like a stockade fence, a solid wooden fence? Is that what you're?
Correct, something along those lines, a solid board fence.
Mm-hmm. And then there are gates in two
Yes, ma'am.
locations?
Correct. Yep.
So I'm still
And
confused a little bit. What
that's-
does this fence, what does this fence enclose? Because it,
It's not really enclosing anything, it's really privacy. So you have a section from the property line to the garage and then the garage to the house. There's no fencing on the other, proposed on the other portions of the property. It's really meant just to give that privacy for, there's a deck area that's back here. And that's really what they're just looking to get a little bit more privacy in their backyard area.
okay, let me just try to square that with, I need to go back and locate the various jurisdictional lines. While I'm doing that, let me turn to, give somebody else a chance. Karen, do you have questions?
Well, the steps, the main ones going from the driveway up to the home, what is, it looks like you have like a stone path. Is that correct? It's not really all steps?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
They have an existing, and I can give you an example of what the client is looking for on that. And let's see if I can get that image up for you to take a look at. Sorry, I might not have it readily available.
Okay. So,
But hold on a minute. I think I do have it.
well, as long as I know it's, yeah, I was just trying to make sure it's not all steps, yeah. So, exactly, okay.
Can you, this is really the intention of what that
Right.
walkway is going to be. Grass joints, some rough hewn granite. I can show you a better picture of the granite as well.
So,
And it would look, the steps would be similar to this.
okay. So my next question is, I mean, this is extensive plantings, and it really seems to be more that you're creating a bunch of gardens rather than a mitigation for anything. Because it's a little here, a little there. There's a lot of lawn proposed versus real true plantings. And I don't know, is there a reason that the mitigation can't be more together? Because right now they're just, it looks like just gardens to me.
Well, as a designer, I'm kind of trying to do both. And we have significantly reduced the amount of lawn. I mean, this area here is currently lawn. There are areas that are in this area that are currently lawn as well. So we have in fact reduced the amount of lawn. What we're trying to do is we're trying to work with native plants to provide both the habitat, but also a beautiful landscape. So it's balancing the two in something that we think is both elegant but also sensitive to the environment.
Right, but it's so, you've got, you've got like 356 square foot plant bed. Then you've got some that are like 200 or, it's just all over the place, 95 square feet. If this is mitigation, we want it protected as mitigation, and I'm seeing it as gardens, really. And I understand, yes, it's native, and native is, very nice. I'm not saying that they don't make a good garden. I'm just saying I'm concerned about, there's so much, and it's all over the place. I mean, you're even within the little gravel, and then you have the strip, you say proposed plant bed, and yet it's it looks to be part of a driveway out to Wilkie Way, that little teeny part at the top, I think,
Yeah,
north.
yeah.
I always have to look for the little north. But you say there's a plant bed in the middle of it, and I'm thinking, what kind of plants are you putting between this cobblestone or gravel or whatever is going into them?
That would be the Pennsylvania sedge
Okay.
that is shown in the planting plan. And
Well-
then, an argument that I would say is in a previous project, you mentioned maintaining, mitigation areas. If we're using mitigation areas to both fulfill the need for mitigation, but also create a environmentally friendly design, then the client is more inclined to maintain them because they're not just, mitigation is over there, so I don't have to maintain it, or mitigation is over there, so I don't have to maintain it. It's part of the environment in which they're living in, and it's kind of, it behooves them to maintain the native species because that is not just the mitigation, but what makes this place a beautiful place.
I understand, but I don't know. I'm having trouble understanding.
It is an unusual
Yes.
way to approach mitigation. I mean, frankly, part of the purpose of mitigation is to create continuous habitat, wildlife habitat. This does not do that. I too, I get it that they're all native plants. And in fact, in the planting areas that are within the 50-foot no disturb zone, they are required to be native plants. So I don't really believe that we can count that area as mitigation, because that's simply what the regulations require. Mitigation is doing something above and beyond what is required to do in any particular case.
Understood.
So, and I take your point about maintenance, and that you are upping the likelihood that these will be properly maintained. But I think that in some point, some extent of this kind of misses part of the point of mitigation. Are we on our, what? I'd like to hear other people.
Come in.
I had the very same reaction when I saw this. I understand what you're trying to do, create a beautiful landscape with native plants, but as Janet said, and as Karen intimated, mitigation is there to provide habitat, and normally with adjacent native areas. Where here it's sort of a walled garden of native plants. It's providing some sort of food value, to pollinators, but you're not going to find any animals living in any of this. It's not going to provide habitat to mammals or anything like that. So its value as mitigation to me is less than it would be if it were a mitigation area carved out next to a natural area. Of course, all natural areas now, on the other hand, are pretty much invasive, so that we have to balance this with that. And I understand that. But I had the same reaction. You have splotches of lawn and beds everywhere. And I don't think of that as mitigation in the way that we normally think of as mitigation. So I had the same reaction. The other thing that struck me is that you're extending this driveway into the NDZ. And NDZ stands for no disturb zone. So, whenever something has, hardscape is proposed for the no disturb zone, we have to look at it very carefully.
There is an existing, for instance, this path here. Do you see where I'm tracing that?
Not really.
This is existing.
Maybe if you turn your cursor fatter or something like that. Okay, I think I see it now. Yeah, okay.
All of that right there.
Yeah.
There's something existing there already. There's stone paving existing there.
Kind of like
I do have to say, I am a bit confused about the mitigation planting comments, only because I don't see how, unless you're doing like a big block of vegetation somewhere, these beds are not far apart, so I just don't I'm sorry, I just don't understand that. I don't understand your criticism there.
Well, it's not a criticism, it's an observation. And it just all hinges on how you define mitigation. I guess we're looking at it from almost purely as habitat for wildlife, birds, mammals, insects, et cetera. And what you...
But don't you think that that part of the intention of what we do in these instances is to blend these things together and not isolate them? So I think that's the design intent, is to have that overlap and not necessarily, again, say mitigation is over there, animals can be over there, I'm a person, I have to be over here.
Well, but as I say, I don't see any small mammals, for example, making a home in any of these areas that you've designed, because they're surrounded by hardscape and they're just not going to live there. So it's not a natural area. It is an area, it's hardscape that has native plants inside. So it's separate and isolated from natural areas. So I can't view it as the sort of mitigation we normally see and ask for and approve. And that was my initial reaction. You know, independently, my two colleagues to my left had the very same reaction.
Right. So, for example, most mitigation that we see is contiguous to naturalized areas, so that it enhances and expands the naturalized area. What is particularly tough about this one is that I'm not a vegetation expert. I'll let someone who knows more than I do. But as I looked at that area close to the wetland, as you move closer into it, it looked heavily invaded by invasive vegetation. So, and some of that is actually, I think, I can't tell where your property line runs, whether some of that vegetation is on this property or whether the existing lawn, it stays lawn right up until there.
The property line is right here.
Yeah.
So in addition, you know, the mitigation that you're talking about to connect, to be close to the resource area,
Right.
would be within the 50-foot wetland setback, which doesn't count as mitigation anyway. So
Well,
we're
it would
kinda
if you were
stuck
removing
with what
lawn,
we
for
do.
example, and replacing that with native vegetation, which comes
Doing that
closer to
here.
an exchange of hardscape for temporary vegetation, which is always a troublesome balance to reach. If you were exchanging hardscape and removing lawn and putting in native vegetation, that actually tips the balance a bit more.
So would a possible way of addressing that concern, if we need to address that concern, is to vegetate along the property line? Is that what you're asking for?
Then lawn comes out, which would be kind of nice.
Yep.
But I also,
Because there are natural plant areas on either side of what is now lawn.
right,
So if you were able to connect those and create a naturalized area along there, then you have enlarged and enhanced the naturalized area, created habitat, done all of that kind of stuff, which has more ecological value than the beds, which I'll also point out, because these beds are more formal planting beds and they are not bounded by invasive vegetation, we would not have the ability to require that they be maintained in perpetuity. You heard the last conversation about doing that. That requirement is triggered when there's invasive vegetation that threatens to take over a mitigation area. In this case, without that, there's nothing that would stop a subsequent owner from pulling out all of those native plants and putting in a bunch of hydrangeas. That nothing in the world would do that, and we would then have lost the benefit of the bargain that we thought we were striking. So there's, you know, I'm sympathetic to some of the points you're making, but it raises problems for us.
It just makes it hard to be a designer and be able to address the concerns in a way that is, you know, a contemporary understanding of living with the environment and meet what you're trying to do. I think we're trying to bridge the gap between aesthetic, lifestyle, and environment, and it seems like you're not taking that into account.
Well, we are to some degree. And remember what we said, that when any plants that go into the no disturb zone are required by regulation to be native. So that's not an option that your clients get points for putting native plants in there. They're required to do that. Similarly, in the 50 to 100, 50 to 100 outer aura, 75% of the plants are required to be native. So I get that there's a benefit to using native plants for the more formal planting, but much of that's already required, and so it makes it very hard for us to value that as mitigation, which is intended to go well above and beyond what is required already.
Even when we're removing areas of lawn, this is all area of lawn, this is all area of lawn. You know, we're removing significant areas of lawn in other parts of the property as well. It sounds like that's not being taken into account.
But you're also adding areas of lawn, it appears.
We're not. No, that's not true.
So all the areas that you say proposed lawn is existing lawn?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
because it says proposed, which means to me, you want to put it in. That, and I was
I'm
going to
sorry, that's-
ask,
So that's, well, maybe this will help. Let's see.
Well,
So,
there's
you know,
both
here you
lawn
see
and
There's
proposed
all
on
lawn
Yeah,
in
there are.
here.
the, yeah.
And then if I go to an aerial, let's say, see, this is all lawn. And we're significantly reducing lawn within these areas.
but you're also reducing, I think, some of the
This is
lawn to give you a driveway.
Now, the driveway is if I were to, let's see,
Well, use that aerial. That aerial, actually, if you extend that existing driveway, arc it up over to the right, that's what you're talking about, where lawn is.
so this line right here is the outside line of the tire tracks for the continuation of the driveway.
Yeah.
So before we keep
Does that
going, is it
seem-
possible that we want to do a group site visit and have him explain exactly what's where?
It is a tough site. I mean,
It's tough, you know,
it was hard to visualize.
well, I also have a couple more questions. but-
Yeah. No, I do too.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, I mean, this one's starting to drag on, so do
Yeah,
we
yeah,
want?
yeah, no, I'm-
Is it more helpful to go out with a representative and see, have him be like, this right here is where the path is going, this is the lawn we're getting rid of? And also, in his defense, we have nothing in our regulations that say necessarily that
They all have to be.
they have to be contiguous.
Yeah.
No,
It
no,
just
that
says-
goes to the question of the value of what's being offered
Right.
as mitigation.
I mean, that's what we want, we all want the,
Yeah,
full
no,
no disturb
it's-
zone, but,
It's not required.
right.
It's just
We
the way that
can-
we're viewing it.
But, yeah.
Yep.
Under all
Because
of,
honestly, as a designer, I thought this was, we were hitting all the marks, and I'm rather shocked with some of the comments that I'm getting. It's,
so under all of these proposed plant beds, is there mulch being put down? Or grass seed, or what's the
They're
ground
all-
cover? Or is it all your Pennsylvania sedge is everywhere?
it's all called out as the Pennsylvania sedge.
So under every proposed plant bed is Pennsylvania sedge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then also, I wanted to ask you about this proposed 30-inch wide walking path with selective pruning and removal invasives, but you want to put down mulch. And why mulch and not a mowed path?
Because that would be adding lawn, and we didn't want to add lawn.
Well, what kind of lawn are you proposing to put down? Because there's nowhere that says what the mix is for the lawn that I could find. Is it the Cape Cod mix?
We haven't specified a mix, but presumably something, yes, that is that is typical of Cape Cod. I mean, we're not looking at putting in a putting green, certainly.
So what's in this path area now that's now being proposed? I don't remember. I was out there, but.
That's a good question, and I'm sorry, I haven't been out to the site recently, so I really don't know. The 30-inch wide dimension that we're using is the state the state allowable width for
Right.
a path. So
No, I'm
that's
not
why-
questioning the width of the path. I was questioning what's going down. Because mulch doesn't really offer any real big benefits. And I'm going to steal something from a colleague, Bob. Maybe I'm wrong, but our cultivar issue. And he always says that they're in quotes. And so you have hummingbird clethra and compact inkberry. Are those straight native or are they a cultivar?
Well, I mean,
Because some are in the 50.
I think our profession has been having this debate for eons. I think what we're looking at doing is creating the right plant for the right space. These are cultivars, but in order for this to be a well-maintained landscape that works with native species, we're using plants that are properly sized, that don't, Ilex glabra gets enormous. The same for clethra as well. So balancing the idea of an ecologically sensitive landscape design with, the concerns that have been expressed about maintaining it, I thought we were pretty thoughtful about what we're doing and what we're using.
I just have a concern about the ones that are in the NDZ because you've got some of the cultivars in the NDZ and that's not a straight native.
Well, but something like Ilex glabra compacta is still going to produce a berry that is a food source. So thinking about, I understand the critique, but if the critique misses the mark of what the intention is of plant selection, this might be an instance where that's true. Compacta still produces a food source. If it was a sterile variety, I think that might be more of a concern, but that's not the case here.
Well, there are some ecologists who make the case that unless it is a straight native, that the species of insects and the higher up in the food chain that evolved over millennia to consume the fruits of that plant, the seeds of that plant, the leaves of that plant, really can't do it as well as they used to because the plant has been altered through cultivation and crossbreeding with non-natives. So, but we could argue that one all day long and until the next year.
Sure, certainly.
And so it probably doesn't really help us to argue each plant's value. It's impossible. But I will say that from the ecologists that I follow, especially in the no disturb zone, it's vital that we have what we can refer to as straight native plants. Now, you keep bringing up the fact that as a designer, and I guess you would describe yourself as a landscape designer? Is that what you mean by?
I'm a landscape architect.
Landscape architect, all right. So, when we have folks who appear before us who are ecological restoration specialists and not landscape designers, they are focusing on building this natural as possible mitigation area, and they're not really designing landscapes. So I guess we have sort of a difference in perspective that you're bringing to this that we bring to this as well. So we're sort of talking different languages. And I can understand why you're...
Different languages, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive, though. I would hope they're not mutually exclusive.
Well, let's hope not. Yeah, let's hope not. But I want you to understand why we're coming from where we're coming from. And I think I understand where you're coming from, but it's just not what we normally see and want to see in terms of what we describe as mitigation. And so I don't know exactly how we get from here to there. And we obviously need to somehow, some way. But it is, it's a fairly significant difference in perspective. I understand what you're saying. And from your perspective, you're designing native plant beds that can be easily protected from invasives, and that's a good thing. I do see that.
And quite frankly, I mean, having sat through the previous presentations, we've provided much more detail and, you know, much more specificity than they have. So it's again, it's just perplexing to me. I've presented in front of conservation commissions before, and this is a new approach that I've never experienced before. So.
Okay, we hear you. And now I'm going to turn it over to the chair to figure out how we can figure this out.
I'm not sure. A couple of things that I've jotted down that I think will help us as we continue to figure this out. One is that you have made several references to the significant amount of lawn that you are removing. Could you quantify that, please, so that, and either show on the plan where it's coming out or something so that we can have a better appreciation for the lawn that is being converted, not to driveway use, but to native plant bed use. So that would help. The second thing is to clarify on your plan where you have proposed lawn. Is that a new lawn? Is that existing lawn that's proposed to stay? And if it's existing lawn that's proposed to stay, I would prefer that it be labeled as existing lawn, so that we have a better sense of that, because I can't tell whether there's extra lawn going in.
I can tell you definitively, there's no additional law that's going in.
Okay, but approving, you've heard the conversation in the beginning about once we approve a plan, it's approved. So I'm not inclined to approve a plan that says proposed lawn, because that creates some kind of confusion. We do have a regulation in effect now, and a pretty hard and fast rule that within the no disturb zone, straight natives only. I hear you about some of the benefits of what you're proposing of those, what we call native Rs. That may be something that you could talk about in the outer aura, but not for the no disturb. Straight natives is what we need there. Beyond that, I think I would encourage you to do the math on this then, and look at what you have proposed for the no disturb zone, count up the aggregate square footage of native plants that are going in there, and remove those from the mitigation calculation, because they can't count as mitigation.
Didn't you say that if we were removing lawn and adding native vegetation, that it would count?
If these are in a place where you're removing lawn, yeah, it's some exchange. It helps a bit. I mean, I guess would I feel differently if you were removing lawn that is between the two naturalized areas closer to and contiguous to the naturalized area to the north? Yes, because it has extra value because it is contiguous, and so it creates a wildlife corridor. It creates unbroken up, continuous habitat. That just has extra value. And we're not saying that what you're proposing has no value. It's just very hard to gauge the value when some of that, we need to understand how much of in the no disturb zone is replacing lawn.
Which is illustrated here on the drawing. Proposed plant bed 205 square feet here, and proposed plant bed 95 square feet here.
And those are both where existing lawn now exists.
Yes.
Okay.
So can you make a note saying that lawn is being removed? Somehow, I mean, this is a very complicated, and you don't have a whole lot of space, so I don't know how you're going to do it, but we need to know.
Somewhere on the plan, the calculation is the amount of lawn being removed, X square feet, and replaced by native plants, native, with no
So I
mulch
can-
and with a,
So I can separate those out for the 0 to 50?
Yes.
And the 50 to 100
yes.
as well? Yeah.
Now, having said that, I'm trying to, you've heard a lot of different, but actually pretty consistent comments. So, I can't say that if you go away and do that, that you're going to come back with something that we're going to be able to approve. Yes, Elise,
I have a couple of comments.
go for it.
The first one is perhaps a detail. We talked about the fencing earlier on. I'd like more specificity on the material that the fence will be made of, so that we know we don't have any Mr. Rawls plastic.
Or at least
Or
know what it looks
We
like.
know what it looks like. Being a relatively new member of the commission, sometimes I feel your pain on the discussion of what you've put together, because you really have done a meticulous job with the beds that you've proposed, and it's taken into consideration a lot of what we're looking at in conservation these days. My brain is putting a very logical option in addition to those garden beds, which has been brought up a couple of times, and that is to continue the native beds that are across the back property line, or the front, I don't know which side of the house the property line is. The one that has the extensive lawn, the lawn across the back by the
The north going.
north.
East.
There's 2,744
North on one, east on
square
the other.
feet of lawn in that area. If you continued the existing natural plant areas that bracket that, you'd have that type of a habitat that we're talking about. The thing that concerns me with what I do understand about conservation is the comment our chairman made about the next owner, and I appreciate the fact that this is a forever house for your clients, but if it is sold someday, those planting beds could be, and most likely would be, replaced by beautiful mop-head hydrangeas in every color known to man, because we have no jurisdiction there. So, in a nutshell, I think there's an elegant design opportunity.
But that could be true for any property, though. I mean, it's confusing, honestly.
Well,
It's,
we're pretty consistent
you know,
about it.
it could be anywhere. It could be any property anywhere somebody changes the plant beds.
Well,
Only if
Right.
it's in, we're only concerned if it's in our jurisdiction.
right, only within conservation jurisdiction. Otherwise, we have nothing to
We
say
have no
about what
say.
anybody does. But this is being offered as mitigation, which elevates it to a very different level than if your clients were simply offering, as many do, to put in ornamental landscaping, foundation plants that are native. We applaud that, we love that. But, there too, we know we have no way of ever enforcing if a subsequent owner could pull them out and put in something else. But this is being offered as mitigation, as balancing the scales between the impact that your project is having with all of the hardscaping that's going in, balancing it by creating these native areas. And I agree with what Elise is saying about making a contiguous, naturalized area that's not a bed, is probably tips that balance a little bit more.
So I have one more thing.
Yeah.
All these planting beds, what's happening with irrigation? I mean, we don't allow irrigation. We're going to have, that's one of our standard things, is we say no irrigation will be put in.
Temporary above ground, yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
same as any large mitigation area.
Right, exactly, but I'm saying when it's all these little beds, I'm wondering if they're thinking they're able to have irrigation to take care of,
Well, they're all native beds, so it's
Yeah.
not, it doesn't matter if
Hopefully
it's
they
4
don't
square
need
feet
it.
or 100 square feet.
I agree.
It doesn't matter
I just,
about.
there has been no mention of irrigation and whether they
No,
were
and-
planning.
And since Bob
we're
Delvecchio is
not-
not here, I will ask the Bob Delvecchio question and say, is there existing underground irrigation in this
Yes.
lawn?
This
I
is-
thought I saw irrigation
I
heads.
don't know myself personally. I honestly don't know.
Okay. We certainly don't allow that in the no disturb zone.
Exactly.
I think Nikki's idea to do a site visit might be good for
Yeah.
this property.
I just feel like we're,
We're just gonna.
We're going in
We're gonna go in
Yes.
circles.
We are.
And we've reached the end of the allotted time.
We will have to be careful if we do that, because there will be definitely discussion of solutions there and not in a public forum.
Yeah.
well, there doesn't necessarily have to be.
It doesn't, but normally with a site visit, we're hearing a presentation.
Well, it's,
And-
this is where this is going, this is where this is, sorry, this is where this is going, this is how much grass we're removing. I don't know. Maybe I'll just go with him or something and clarify what I find.
I'll go with you.
Okay, yeah, I mean, like maybe one or
and then
two of
we'll report
you.
back.
And also, we can
There's not a quorum.
publicize that we're going out on a group site visit and that there may be a
Mary
quorum.
wants to say something. Mary?
No, that's actually, Nikki, what I was going to suggest is, I believe if you just publicize when we're having the site visit, then that meets
It's a
the
public-
public.
Yeah, I mean, I can add it to, so we are obviously continuing this to whatever date we decide. And at the top of that agenda, I'll say, public site visit, maybe 12 PM or, we can figure out what date and time and everything, followed by our regular scheduled
Sure.
public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I honestly have to say, recommendations and guidance would be certainly helpful, again, because this is such honestly, it's a very unusual response. I've been in conservation commissions in several municipalities, and this is really the first time a discussion such as the one that you guys are having is something that I'm facing. It's really, for me, it's kind of shocking.
Point taken.
We're just trying to interpret the Wetlands Protection Act the best way we can.
For our town.
Understood.
All right, so you have zoning coming up on the 27th. You're scheduled for zoning. If we
I didn't know I
continue
was
this,
scheduled for zoning.
sorry?
I didn't know I was scheduled for zoning. I didn't realize there was a zoning issue here.
I was wondering.
Check, double check, let me see if I got the right address from the Sarah's memo.
Outermost.
Hang on a second, we'll double check that and confirm it. You might need it for the fence.
Oh, betcha.
Or was it My Town Gov?
I'm looking.
Yeah, it's on MyTownGov, I saw
Yeah, I'm
Sarah's
looking.
letter is there. That's where I pulled it from.
Wilkie, applicant is scheduled to be heard before ZBA on July 27th.
Yep,
Yeah, so I'm guessing you're not involved in that, it's probably just Outermost that new to apply.
No, I mean, this is completely news to me, and I don't know exactly what triggers it. So it would have been nice to know in advance, but I don't know who would have told me that. So
well, now you
Well,
know.
we didn't do it.
We told you in advance, we told you about it. So we wouldn't want to continue the actual hearing until after that, which gives us some time to schedule and put on the agenda. We can put it on the agenda,
For the
See, we don't-
second.
yeah, and we could advertise.
is there a way that I think I would need to talk to my client about that? And if there's a way that I can coordinate that with Conservation Commission staff, that would be
Yep.
helpful.
Yep,
Yeah, that would be fine.
yes.
So you're just you're with Patsky, or no, Zen Associates, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, so Outermost Harbor has their plan, so they would have been the ones that most likely filed for ZBA, so.
No, they didn't. I can tell you that nobody has filed for ZBA. I filed the notice of intent, and that was it. So I don't know how ZBA was even, how that was even triggered. And again, nobody told me that was an issue. So it's
No wonder.
very perplexing.
Or not Outermost Harbor, Outermost Survey.
Outermost land, Is that,
Yeah.
And
That's land.
they wouldn't have applied for anything, so.
Somebody did.
something
I
triggered?
mean, the ZBA secretary always reviews our agendas and says they either need to go, or they're already scheduled, or they were denied, or, gives an update. So if Sarah said if they're on the schedule, then someone filed.
It wasn't us. We just
Well,
filed a notice of
no,
intent, so I don't know how that occurs, how that happens, or what triggers it, or why. But I guess that's something to ask them.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I can look into tomorrow, assuming Sarah's in the office.
Okay, but at this point, we need to continue to a date certain.
Yes.
So,
August 2nd?
the 2nd or the 9th? If we have to advertise an on-site, which would go out, the ad for the 26th hearing would go out on,
It has to be in, I think it's Monday, but we'd try and do Friday.
the 21st. So we could schedule an on-site sometime the week of the 24th.
Yes.
Okay. We can do the 2nd then of August.
All right.
Again, you'll have to confirm. Another question that our client had was how long the stakes need to be in place. All the staking needs to be in place.
I mean, if they have a certain reason they need them to come out for some party or something, that's fine, but as long as they're in for our site visit, then,
I think the wetlands regulations say they have to be in until the orders are issued.
not 100% on that one. I mean, I don't have a
We'll check,
problem.
certainly until the site visit, and then we'll check and confirm whether they have to stay after that.
Okay.
We ready?
Well, thank you. Again, it's whatever, is very unusual for me, so whatever advice, direction you could give with specific advice and direction would be helpful, certainly.
We will try, and just noting, I don't know, these positions, we've taken these for years, and no one has ever been shocked or surprised by what we say, unless, on these issues. So we have a gap, a bridge we have to build to communicate better, so we'll see what we can do. Do we have a motion?
We do. I move that we continue 23 Wilkie Way to the meeting on August 2nd, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote, Karen,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye. We'll be in touch about a date to meet up on the property.
Great, thanks so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
All right, the final notice of intent is 72 Happy Valley Road, Mark Hunt, map 6D, parcel 27A, 19A, SE 103631, raise existing single-family dwelling and construction of a new single-family dwelling.
Hello.
Hi there, Scott Fennar with Grady Consulting, here on behalf of the applicant Mark Hunt. Also with us today is Bart Lipinski, registered landscape architect. I believe we last met on June 7th. Just a high-level overview. This is a raise and rebuild of a single-family dwelling and construction of a new septic system. The new septic system has been approved by the Board of Health, and it is a denitrifying septic system. We're also proposing some dry wells to attenuate the roof drain runoff. At the last hearing, there were some comments regarding the size of the deck and the location of the deck. The initial deck that we proposed was about 345 square feet at a distance of 30.3 feet to the nearest point to the BBW. We have revised that deck. We've shrunk it down a little bit. We've brought the stairs over to be further away from the BBW. So this deck was reduced by about 20%. It's about 280 square feet at a distance of 36.9 feet to the BBW. The applicant also met on site with Bart Lipinski, and they reviewed some of the mitigation concerns from the last hearing. So you'll notice, I believe on sheet 3, there's a new mitigation plan. We've also provided a revised area calculations table, a foundation planting plan, a tree replacement plan, as well as a plan to deal with the invasives. This time, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. One minute, please. All right, so I noticed that, I did look at the relocated mitigation area. I have a note here to myself, and I apologize if it's on the plan and I just couldn't find it. Has the square footage changed with the relocation? What is now the square footage?
So the square footage is 1,299 square feet, where the required mitigation is 808. So we're about 1.5 times the required mitigation here.
Okay.
I believe also one of the comments from the last hearing was the last mitigation location was too close to some of the invasives, so there was concern there that the invasives might overtake this. So you'll see in the left side of the sheet there, there's an existing path, so there is some separation between that mitigation area and the existing kind of brush area, if you will, that does have some invasives there. I believe one of the other comments was you like to see the mitigation closer to the house, so that's the reason for the other location near the garage, where it'll be in sight and easier to maintain.
So Bob, you brought up the adjacent invasives and the issue of putting the mitigation right next to them. Do you think that this satisfies those concerns?
Well, actually, I didn't necessarily propose, well, anyway, yeah, let me just talk to the mitigation area that's to the west, I guess. So there's not a path depicted per se along that you're saying that it is a path there?
Yes, there is. So it extends from the gravel parking area that I believe the abutter was previously using. There's an access way to get back to that path that goes around the bogs.
So there's a path along the short edge of the mitigation area, but what's along the long edge, not along the property side, but the other side of that mitigation area? Is that?
What's existing there?
Yeah.
It's really just an open area. Perhaps Bart could answer that question.
And the reason I ask is how are there invasives there? Are they adjacent to that mitigation area? I thought previously you had proposed a mow strip over there, and I don't see a mow strip shown on this new plan.
We had not previously proposed that.
Oh, you did not? Okay, well, we see a lot of plans, but I thought there was. But anyway, still the remaining question, I see the path along the northern, what I'm calling the northern part of that strip, and on the left side is the property line, but on the right side of that is, if it's just invasives, then what's to be done? The only thing that we can normally come up with there is a mow strip, but then the question is that a mow strip that will get mowed? Anyway, thoughts?
Yep, just a moment. I believe Bart's gonna chime in. He's just trying to get his
Okay.
mic set up.
Does it say he's connecting to audio? Is that not yet connected? No, it looks like he's connected.
He's in.
Yeah. Hello?
He can hear you.
Can you, you're touching your headphone. Do you hear us? But we can't hear you, right? Okay. Your mouth is moving and we don't hear anything. All right.
Sometimes you can call in by phone and, you know, we can hear your audio that way if you're having trouble with your computer audio. And of course, now you know we want to know what number to call, probably.
Yeah, at the top of the agenda, do we still put that number there? Yeah, okay. Oh crap, it's got all this stuff.
Yeah, I know. That's why I handed it to you.
Yeah, no, this isn't. There is a number, but there's a rather long conference ID number you'll have to take down as well. Are you willing to give that a try? Oh, nod if you say yes. Okay. The number to call is 508-945-4410. When you call that, you'll get a recording that you have to put in a conference ID number. That number is 783-557-861#. Hope that works.
Me too. To Elise.
All right. Can anybody hear me now?
Yes, yay.
All right. Wow, I apologize for that.
No
especially
no worries, it
because
happens
we're
all the
last
time.
one. So the mitigation area to the left, as Scott mentioned, just before the H and Happy, is a big gravel parking area that the neighbors currently use. The area that we have shown for mitigation with the trees, shrubs, conservation mix, it appears that whole area was used for something. Maybe it was storage at one point. It looked like there was a bunch of stone that was put down and then maybe cleaned up, and then over the years it's been cleaned up, and now there's I don't think there was much invasive material growing there. It was just a bunch of random stuff that might have come from just things laying there over time. But there is the path that goes around the pond. There also is a little bit of a trail that goes from that parking area to that trail. The neighbor side, it looked like there was stuff that was kind of cleared out of that area. So I don't know what's going on over there, but we figured that we could use this area for mitigation because it looks like it was disturbed at one point, and now if we could mitigate it back to a natural area, then it's just going to, improve that area as far as the water is concerned, as far as anybody walking around the pond on the trails. So the second part of the mitigation is we added some in to the south side, the south corner, or the southeast corner of the property. In front of that mitigation area, again, is another parking area that their other abutters use. So our clients, I think they agreed that they would leave these parking areas in, but that lawn area that's in that area, it looks like it's the neighbor's lawn. So we figured if we could bring some mitigation in there and kind of define their property a little bit better, we could hook it into the existing vegetation that's, just east of that area. So we would have lawn on two sides of it, crushed stone on the third side, and the fourth side would be kind of connecting back into natural areas. All the material that we use in there is native, so we have red maples, red cedars, some eastern dogwoods, clethra, bayberry, viburnum, and then instead of mulch, we would seed everything with the conservation mix. Again, just to renaturalize the area as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. We did note the trees, So there are three trees that are alive that would be coming out. So we had 3 pitch pines that were in the way of the new footprint. So we mitigated 2 to 1, so 2 new trees for each pitch pine that were taken down. And we also noted 2 dead pitch pines that were covered in bittersweet. The other one was covered in poison ivy. So we didn't count those towards mitigation. We just needed to get those out of there so that they don't fall eventually on a new house. And then I believe the last part that was requested was a little bit of a foundation planting along the front of the house. So in this case, we did use some more ornamental plants. They're all not necessarily native, but they are all non-invasive. So we tried to get a little bit of color around the front of the house, a little bit of a more maintained area around the house. And that's why we have 2 separate plant lists on the plan as well. So we have the mitigation plant list with the 1299 square foot that Scott mentioned. And then we also separated the foundation planting just to make it easier to understand what is being counted towards mitigation and what is for the foundation. As far as invasives, we put some notes on the plan, and we also referred Water and Wetland, which is a company we work from in Marshfield. So if there were invasives that needed to come out or the homeowners wanted to take out, they would be contacted and a program could be set up to safely and correctly remove the invasives from any areas closer to the home.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, yeah. I don't have much, I still don't have much hope for the mitigation area over to the left. It'll still probably eventually go away. But yeah, just you should know that as was mentioned earlier, previous applications, that we do have standard language in our orders of conditions that require mitigation areas to be maintained in perpetuity. So you might be thinking about that in terms of where how you protect those mitigation areas. The area that you've created by the house, I think it certainly will have a better chance of survival, even though it's not really in the resource area as much. With regard to the foundation plants, our rubric here is at least 50% straight native plants in the outer aura, and that's where the foundation plants are for this property. So it looks to me like they're all cultivars or ornamentals right now. So I think you'll probably need to adjust the mixture of those plants to include at least 50% non-native. If you were actually coming in after we approved our recent regulations, it'd be 75% native, so you're a little bit lucky. I think that's what I have. That's what I have.
All right, thank you, Bob. Elise, do you have any questions, or? Okay. Karen?
I just have a comment on your plant plan. You do not have the 50-foot marked. It's there, but it doesn't say it's the 50-foot, the 100-foot riverfront and all of those. They need to be marked because that will be easier to tell that, as Bob said, you know, we need full 100% native in the 50. So, you know, we've got the left-hand plantings are all within the 50.
Right.
So, you know, it just makes it a little more clearer if you at least mark those.
So we could add that note. They're on the other sheets. They must have just been shut off when we were
Right.
trying to make it easier to focus on the planting plans.
Yep. Okay, thank you. All right, so let me look and make sure. Path property. So we are ready to schedule this to go to order of conditions. Does anybody have any particular suggestions for what should be in the order for findings or special conditions?
Still think you ought to consider a most strip for that
I think.
Yeah.
isolated.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Bob's right that our standard orders of condition require that mitigation areas that are contiguous to invasive areas must be maintained and kept clear of the invasive plants in perpetuity. It's a continuing condition that will remain on the deed. So however you accomplish that is up to you. In our experience, most people find that putting a mow strip around the mitigation helps with incursion, not all, but, at least some that would come across the surface, and also helps provide access so they can get into the mitigation area and pull any invasives that are starting to creep in there. So it's a good practice. It helps fulfill that obligation. So if you think that's something you want to consider, it would probably be a good idea to put it on the plan so that when the time comes that the agent goes out for a certificate of compliance, they're not wondering what the mow strip is doing there when it wasn't on the plan. So it's just a suggestion.
Yep, I think what we could do is just shift that whole bed over 3 feet and have a mow strip right down the property line, since we're not allowed to do anything on the other side of that line.
Right.
That'll give us the mow strip, and then the other two sides of that triangle are kind of defined by the existing paths that are there.
Okay. So they'll provide the access and the ability to keep the invasives out. Okay.
Yep.
Then there's the foundation plant. There's the foundation plant situation, which appears to be all
Yeah, we
ornamentals
will-
now.
Yeah, we could get more holly in there, or a couple more natives to get that 50-50 balance.
Yep.
Yeah, in terms of area,
Yeah.
not plants. Right?
The other thing I think we should highlight is that they did move the deck, so it wasn't as much in the NDZ.
We can acknowledge
Thank you
that.
very
Yeah.
much, because that was one of my things. One thing we had said last time was there was a very large pine by the road that was coming out for the septic, and we had asked that they consider putting 2 to 3 trees to replace it. And right now, I think we're at a 1-to-1, or
2-to-1.
we are 2-to-1?
They're
2 to
saying
1.
2-to-1 because some of the trees are dead that they're coming
Oh,
out.
okay. All right. So, those were the things I can think of.
If anybody thinks of anything else after just please contact Crystal. Let her know that you have suggestions for the order.
One more question. With regard to lawn that is going to be put in, I assume that's all going to be native fescue? There's no non-native lawn area being installed?
No, we have a note for like just the typical New England warm season grass for any disturbed areas, because of construction or because of the new, where the old house was. But if it's got to be a fescue specific, we could change that note.
It doesn't have to be something specific. It just has to be a native seed mixture, not a non-native grass.
Right. I think the New England warm season mix is mostly comprised of a New England seed mix.
Right,
So
and that's-
it's the fescue and everything else that's in there.
Probably fine,
Right,
yeah.
microclobe, all that stuff. Yep. All right, so
26th.
where are you, where are you on your other approvals? You don't need any I have here.
So we're meeting with the Historic Commission on Tuesday,
Oh,
and that's our last approval.
oh.
Have you met with him before? Is this the second?
Nope, this is the first time. We have a site walk scheduled with them on Monday with the public
Oh.
hearing on Tuesday.
Oh. Okay. What is the date of that?
17 and 18.
Okay. That won't affect
Yeah,
us.
17 for the site visit, 18 for the historic.
Okay.
I would just put it on the 26th.
Yeah, I think we'll be good, we'll know by what then.
Yeah.
All right, so we will schedule this for the final hearing to review the order of conditions and vote on that on the 26th.
Okay.
Okay?
I move that we continue 72 Happy Valley Road for an order of conditions on July 26, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote. Karen?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right, we'll see you on the 26th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I didn't anticipate a couple of the rabbit holes that appeared unexpectedly.
Well, I had a feeling.
I do
All
have to
right.
leave at like,
Let's go.
in like 5 minutes.
Let's go.
So, request for a certificate of compliance, 78 and 90 Chipping Stone Road, Juliet Bernstein and Town of Chatham, map 7H, parcel 20C369, map 7H, and parcel 19C370, SE 10496, construction of proposed stormwater overflow. So it's listed under homeowner and Town of Chatham because it's the Town of Chatham's, back in 1912 or whenever this was issued. It was the.
1912.
Yeah, I know.
I just wrote that. Well, yeah, it might have been.
496. I don't know.
Might have been, yeah.
The town needed to do some stormwater management and needed an easement for those, on those properties. So that's why it's issued under both of them. One of them is selling, and that's how it popped up. So there's no issue with issuing the certificate of compliance.
All right, we need a motion.
I move that we approve the certificate of compliance. I move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 78 and 90 Chipping Stone Road.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote. Karen?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That's approved.
All right, then we have the enforcement order for 107 Taylor's Pond on the agenda. That's more or less just to keep it from fading away. So I asked Jen Crawford yesterday at like 2 after our meeting for an update, and I haven't gotten that yet. So she's probably sending people out there, I would imagine sometime this week to, take pictures and do an update, and then we'll see if we would like anyone to be present to discuss the progress.
And are we thinking we'll do that on the 26th in 2 weeks? Something by then, or-
Yeah, I mean, we can continue to just keep it on the agenda.
Yeah,
I think
let's
it's
do
the
that.
best idea.
Do you have to do a motion?
Yeah.
I would, yes.
I move that we continue the enforcement order for 107 Taylor's Pond Road to July 26th, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote. Karen?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I vote aye. We'll deal with that one then. The only other thing we'll say is that the new final version of the revised regulations have been posted on MyTownGov. Again, this time they're posted the complete set, and thanks to Crystal, they are color-coded so that all the new provisions are in red, so that it should be pretty easy to flip through them. Just know that there are 2 entirely new sections that she didn't put in. She put the title in red for mitigation, vegetation management and mitigation standards. So they are effective now. So please take a look at them.
Cool.
We're going by them.
I move to
I-
adjourn.
One more small thing. I'm updating the violation tracker
Okay.
bit by bit, and if you're curious, and I went and looked at Morris Island Road. I made notes in the tracker if you would like to
Yeah.
know what I saw. This is only what I can see from not being on the property, of course, so that would require a different level of.
Yep.
And I also went to Frostfish Hill and made notes about what I saw there too. So my plan is just to go through all these and, at least from what I can see, figure out where, in which cases we might need to dig in deeper.
All right, so it's on the tracker. We'll take
on
a
the
look.
tracker.
You're keeping us in suspense about what you saw. We'll go, that forces us to go look.
That's
because
right,
We've got to
exactly
know. Okay.
Yeah?
All
Okay.
right, go.
I move to adjourn.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote. Karen?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Mary? We've
Aye.
lost. Oh, you're there. We can't see. Okay, and I vote aye. That's a wrap. We're done. Thank you, everybody.
Yay, thank
Outta here.
you. 6 minutes different.
I said 3:15.